edition of Entrepreneurs and Fuego, where we're documenting your journey one digital footprint at a time. I had to cheat again to see the, what we say and everything else. But with me, I have the distinct privilege to have a phenomenal business coach, Loretta Love. By the way, you have, your last name is kind of like my favorite word ever.
Thank you. It's actually my middle name, so it's Loretta Love Huff.
Loretta Love Huff, yes. Correct.
So I grew up Loretta Love.
And I had, and I should say this because, and I should apologize, because I thought your name was also Emerald. But Emerald is your
the name of the business, right?
The name of the business. So you're Loretta Love Huff with an emerald that is the business. Now I got you, but you better tell us who
Lots
you are.
Lots of stories, huh?
Lots of stories.
So Loretta Love Huff.
Yes.
I grew up Loretta Love. It was a little bit big of a name when I was a little girl, but I ran a really great campaign for a high school class vice president.
Yeah.
So I had hearts all over the school. Oh. What the world needs now is love. Love makes the world go round. Everybody needs love. So it worked, right? So.
Oh, absolutely. So that's cool. So do you prefer people remember you as Loretta Love or as Loretta Love Huff?
Well, I mean, the name's Loretta Love Huff, so people never call me Loretta Love, because that was my name, decades ago before I got married.
Right.
And I didn't even use the love part for a long time. This is my third marriage I'm on. So I didn't use the love, I just used the L.
Yeah.
But then I moved to Phoenix. I married a guy that I dated when I was in college.
Wow.
And he knew me as Loretta Love. And I decided at that point that I wanted to be a professional speaker. And I thought, Loretta Love Huff, that's a good speaker name. It's more distinctive than Loretta L. Huff. So I put the full name back in there.
So you have, all right, so you were in college, you get out of college, what did you do next?
I went to work at Sears, Roebuck and Company. I worked at Sears.
Roebuck. That's
right.
a name that is now becoming so in the past, man.
Right, and I worked there before they built the Sears Tower. I worked there right across the street from the catalog order plant in Chicago, where I don't know if you may not be old enough, but there was the Christmas wish book.
But of course, in a catalog for the young entrepreneurs who are
who don't know what that
don't know what a catalog is. It's this really huge book like this.
Lots of pictures in it.
Lots of pictures. You ordered it from there, right?
Right, exactly.
It was the first Amazon, if you will.
It was,
right?
exactly. And I actually worked, and you're reminding me, one of my early jobs was as a computer programmer. And the program that I worked on was the application that somehow collected the orders from the telephone and converted them into things to go out to the distribution center so that somebody could go and pick the orders and mail them.
So you had the cards, with the punch cards that you had.
Yes, I actually did. Yes, I'm that old.
Well, that's
cards,
what.
Yes.
That wasn't really that long ago, to be honest with you. I mean, technology is
decades ago.
Well, but in technology time, it's like this, right? I mean, it's just
things have changed dramatically.
It's just a blink.
Right.
And so, all right. So you're working for Sears Roebuck, and then what happens?
So I worked for Sears. I worked there for years and years. I started to. Sorry. Thank you. I decided to go to grad school. I had initially applied when I first got out of college. I had a psychology degree, and I kind of knew I wasn't going to get a job that was really connected to that with a bachelor's degree in psychology. And so I thought about going to grad school. I'd actually applied to go to 3 schools. I applied to, I think, Northwestern, DePaul University, and University of Illinois in Chicago.
Sure.
And I was going to get a master's degree. And right before I quit, because they'd all accepted me. So right before I quit, I got offered this computer programming job.
Right.
When I first started at Sears, I was a secretary. And I thought, how horrible is this? I went to college for 4 years, and I was expecting to do something a little bit more, but that was the only job that I could find. So about to quit, when the HR person in the office said, hey, we've got this training program, would you like to be a programmer? And one of my college roommates had been a programmer, had been studying computer science, and said, this is a really good field. So I thought, sure, I'll learn that. And so I programmed for a few years. I then met my first husband in the data processing department. We got married, we got divorced. I went to grad school. I studied finance at the University of Chicago. I started working in banking. Yeah, it was a very great school. People flunked out of that school. It was one of the more challenging things I ever did in my whole life.
Very good school.
So I was a banker for a while. I worked at some really great companies. I worked at Kraft and Sega. And
During this time, did you know that you had the entrepreneurship bug? I'm going to call it that.
I had.
Or did you see yourself as, all right, yeah, I'm just going to have this little safe job. I know I might just change jobs laterally, or maybe I'll just move on. Or did at some point,
No.
were your dreams in the back of your head going,
Not at all.
I can be an entrepreneur? No.
My dad had been an entrepreneur. So I saw him, take care of our family with this drugstore. He owned the drugstore that was kitty corner across the street from my elementary school. And he, took pretty good care of us.
Right.
And then he sold that, actually twice. He sold it to the pharmacist,
Right.
who I think got a little happy with the pharmacy. And so we ended up getting the drugstore back. Then he ran it again for another few years and sold it again. And then he bought a coin-operated laundromat. It's the truth.
That's so cool.
So he bought a laundromat, and he had that until he passed away. But I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. It really wasn't until I got to Apple and I saw all of these contractors coming in and working alongside of us, but making 2 or 3 times the amount of money that we were making, and then taking off for 3 months. And I thought, boy, that seems like kind of a good gig. You work for 3 months, they're doing the same work I'm doing, and then they're gone for 3 months. That I could like that, but I didn't have the confidence at that point. And I thought, I don't think I could do this. So. At that point, I think my first venture actually was the jewelry design. So while I was at Apple, I got all these stories.
No, that's fine. I mean, this is your show.
Went to a conference, an expo. It was kind of a new age conference.
Right.
And there was a woman there who had a display table with jewelry on it. And I love jewelry. Whenever I go to an art and wine festival, I always stop at jewelry. So I went there and I looked at her stuff and I was a little underwhelmed. And I thought, how did she get this expo? Because I know expo tables cost a lot of money, and she's got jewelry that's like this ordinary. So I went into one of the breakout sessions, was a guided meditation. And I was sitting there with this group of people with our eyes closed, and the man was walking us through the forest, and I could hear the leaves rustling, and hear the babbling brook, and feel the soft earth beneath my feet. And this male voice in my head said, "You should make jewelry."
Just like that.
Just like that. You should make jewelry. And I'm like, okay. So I came out, and you know how sometimes you get those messages that are really, really clear?
You just find inspiration.
That was one of
wherever
those.
you find it. So you find that inspiration, and then you're just going to go make jewelry.
And so I did it. So I came out and I told people I was going to make jewelry. And
just like that.
Yeah. And so then, because I was that clear, the universe said, "Great, she's serious." So they started putting people in front of me who knew where the retailers were, where I could buy it, where I could take classes, so I could learn.
But you were smart. I mean, so you kind of had a path. So you kind of had an idea as to where you wanted to go. So it wasn't really a blind.
Well, that was pretty blind. Yeah, that was totally unexpected. And I did that just part-time. Like while I was working at Apple, I'd make jewelry at night, and I'd go to work in the daytime, and on the weekends I would sell art, sell the jewelry at art and wine festivals.
At which point does the Apple job is, all right, I just don't want to do that anymore, and I'm just gonna do things on my own.
Yeah, that actually took a while. There were a few jobs after that before that happened. So my next husband was an entrepreneur. We started a business together, not jewelry. We were doing financing for small companies in the Silicon Valley that weren't ready for the venture capitalists. Right. And I was doing a couple of business plans, because I'm pretty good with numbers, but I hated it. And then I got this invitation to go to a weekend course on coaching. And as an HR executive, I'd actually hired a couple of coaches to work with some of the kind of bad boys that we had in the company that seemed good in some area, but they needed a little shaping up. And I thought, boy, that seems like a cool job. So that was probably the first indication that I should go do something else on my own. That seems like a cool job. So here I am writing these business plans, hating it. And then I get this invitation to this weekend on coaching. So I go to it and I think, oh my God, this is me. So I signed up for their year-long training program. This was like 1996. It was a while ago, and at that point, then I was really hooked. I got kind of hooked when I was with husband number 2, because it was a it was a good venture. It actually did teach me a lot about networking, because I'd never really had to network when I had a corporate job.
Sure.
And so I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about how I would want to do business. And so that was really kind of the motivation. So doing the business with him felt like a safe first step, because he'd already been in business. And then I decided, I don't want that business. I loved the jewelry thing, but I wasn't really making enough to live on it.
And so you find coaching, and then that becomes your passion.
Right. Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
what you do now.
That's what I do now.
And you write books, and you empower women, and you empower entrepreneurs, and that's what you do.
Exactly.
So who goes to you? Who's the type of client that goes to you?
I have a couple of different groups that I serve. So I work a lot with entrepreneurs, who are trying to grow their businesses and feel like they're overwhelmed and overworked and not quite sure how to grow their business. And oftentimes what I'm working with them on is putting together a marketing plan and holding them accountable for implementing the plan.
At which stage of their dream or their entrepreneurship dream do you get them?
It could be, I won't say any stage, but at the very beginning. So I've worked with several people who were just getting launched. I've worked with people who've been in business for a while who were frustrated and just not growing fast enough. I don't work with large companies on marketing, but with people who are like corporate folks. I do executive coaching, helping them move up the corporate ladder.
Awesome. And so, when you coach someone, do you find it frustrating sometimes that, I mean, if, all right, I may seek your help, but if I don't want to be coached, then I become a difficult client, right? I mean, because I'm an entrepreneur, I know everything. You get
Well, yeah, I don't really, because people, you know, if they come to me, we have a conversation and we talk about where they're trying to go and why aren't they there yet and what challenges are they having. And if they hire me, and I'm not cheap, you know, so if they hire me, they've now plunked down some money.
They're
so
invested.
They're invested. So they're a little motivated to listen. So mostly when I'm working with people, they're listening, they're eager, they're on the edge, they want to get their money back. You know, because that's what I'm aiming for.
Right,
you know,
right.
they've invested in themselves, so let's get a return on that investment that you just made.
Right, right. And you've written a couple of books.
I have. So the first one actually came as a result of
I gotta put my glasses.
a lot of the conversations I was having as an HR executive. So I found that I was talking to employees who were frustrated with their boss, or bosses who were ready to fire their employees, but nobody had really had a conversation with the other person. And so I found I was really good at helping them come up with the words to say to
6 keys for dissolving disputes.
went off with their heads.
Went
won't
off with their
work.
heads won't work. Awesome, awesome title. And the other book that you have.
This one's on leadership. Once I became a coach and I was working with a lot of people on raising their leadership presence in their organization and helping them have more of an impact on their community or their company, I got this other idea, actually in another workshop, to write a book on leadership, and asked a number of people to recommend great leaders that I could interview. And so both of them are filled with kind of practical models and applications, but also stories that illustrate it, because I'm very much about people learning through stories because they think they're more impactful.
It is about storytelling, isn't it? Because that's how our information got to us way back
That's true.
10,000 years ago, right? To today. People told stories around the campfire.
Right.
And those stories were retold and retold and retold and retold. And to the point where that's how history was written.
And that's
for a
how we
long
learn
time.
things.
That's how we learn
is
things,
listening
right?
to, you know, the hero story, the tragedy story. We learn by understanding what other people have gone through and seeing how that relates to me and what lessons can I take from that.
And what lesson, because you talk to a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, what lessons have you learned from those entrepreneurs that you've helped coach?
Oh, that's a good question. What lessons have I learned?
Do they have something in common, all these entrepreneurs?
Well, I was just about to say people are different.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that I talk about in the conflict book. We have conflict because people are different.
Right.
So what I've learned is that it's really important to listen to the person that you're speaking with, to find out what their perception is and their perspective is. Because oftentimes when we're talking to people, we're talking to them like we would want to be talked to. And so a lot of the training that I do is helping people step into, you know, the hearts and minds of the person that they're trying to influence or learn from, to find out what their perspectives are. So, you know, to answer your question, so people are different, but if we pay attention to how they're different, we can accomplish things that we might not be able to if we weren't adjusting and modifying and trying to respond to the person that's across the table.
Is there a particular client that you've rejected? You said, you know, you're beyond help, or I just can't help.
Somebody asked me that a little while ago. Actually, there was one. And it was someone who presented, you know, here's the problem that I'm having. And it was a time management. That's how we presented it. I'm having a time management issue. I spend a lot of my time doing things that aren't productive. And I thought, I can help with that.
Right.
But then as we got into it, I
There's
realized
a deeper problem.
there was a deeper problem, and he had not mentioned that, or maybe I think he had mentioned it, but I was thinking, well, if we're just working on the time management thing, I can help with that. But the deeper problem was way deeper than what I could really deal with. And so we ended the relationship because he needed to get help in that other area because there was nothing that I could do on the time management issue if this other issue was going to be driving his behavior.
So we're all about inspiring entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Right? And so this talk inspires somebody out there to say, you know what, yeah, maybe I don't have that passion to be an entrepreneur right now, but you acquired it as you went along in your journey, right? I mean, you saw that jewelry person, selling jewelry, and that inspired you to, I can do this. And so that becomes your first step into entrepreneurship, right? And now you're a successful coach. What advice would you give somebody that has got a dream right now, that has got that passion to go into a business for themselves?
Right.
What advice would you give?
I would say follow your dream. Because that's the thing. My tagline is the dream leader for business.
Sure.
So I believe that we all have gifts. We all have something in us. We don't always recognize it immediately. But if you know what your gift is and what your passion is, you can make a business out of it. Assuming you've got certain market conditions and other things in place. But if you have a dream, don't let it die. That would be my advice. Don't let it die. Get help. There are a lot of kind of self-made people, and that's great, but everybody's not a self-made kind of entrepreneur. And so find someone who has walked that path ahead of you, who's got advice and perspective and other resources they can bring to the party.
And if you fail?
Do it again. Oh my God, do it again. Start something else up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Follow your dream.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. That's inspirational, man. I really take so much pride, and I'm very humbled all the time when I hear stories like yours, because you've talked to so many people. So you've got a collection of stories yourself, a collection of lessons from other people that you're giving us today.
Yeah.
So
I actually want to share one more with you.
Yes, please.
So one of them, it's actually kind of the foundational piece. So
we could be here telling stories all day. You know that.
It was not a story. It was kind of a story. So I believe that accountability makes magic happen. And that when you're held accountable for making progress on your dreams, it opens the door to a life of purpose and fulfillment and prosperity. And that's what I do as a coach, whether it's an entrepreneur or somebody moving up corporate America. It's taking your dream, getting people clear about what their dream is, and then holding them accountable for making progress on it and not putting it on the back shelf and giving up.
How do you hold them accountable?
We talk constantly. Okay, what did you do? What do you think you're going to do? Here's where you say you want to go. What's the next step? So sometimes we're brainstorming on what the next step
weekly?
is. Probably not daily, weekly.
Weekly basis?
Yeah.
You said you were going to do this.
Have you done how did it go? Right. What did you learn?
What did you learn?
Now where did you get stuck? Okay, was it a mental thing, or did you just not do it, or what? And even if you just didn't do it, it's probably because you got a mental thing that we need to deal with. So we dig in there and find out what stopped them from taking the action that they need to take. And sometimes it's me giving them the words, sometimes it's a resource, but hey, go do it now.
You're gonna have
do it now and call me back. I'm not even talking to you today. Do that and call me.
Exactly.
Right.
And do it.
Do it now.
And do it now. You're gonna have
and you're not getting your money back, so do it. You're in it. You hired me. You're in. I actually had that conversation with somebody. You're in it. You hired me just for this thing that this cliff you're about to fall off of. That's why you hired me. So don't fall off this cliff. Do this. Call me back.
There's no partial refund or anything like that. You're already committed.
Do it. Call me back.
I already spent your money. You better do it.
I'm here for you, even if you're not. Do it. Call me back.
That's so cool. This is a little gift for you.
Thank you,
Loretta, for having been a guest of the
thank you so much.
Entrepreneurs of Fuego. This is for the Office Pile.
I love this place.
You're going to have to come back.
I will. I love this place.
It's so inspiring. And I feel like we should have a little campfire here and just talking.
Yeah,
and just
more
go on and on and on. And stories about entrepreneurship and stories about success, how to deal with failure, never giving up, your passion, and just following your dream.
Yeah, if you're not failing, you're not working hard enough.
I like that. I just don't fail too often.
Yeah. Well, but you learn things.
Yeah, you do.
You learn things.
You do.
Just don't give up. Get back up.
Awesome. Get back up.
Go do the thing, call me back.
And with that, we're out.
Thank you.
Welcome to the